Welcome back to another episode of Keen on Australia, where we talk about all things moving to Australia, living in Australia, and life here in Australia. I hope you've been enjoying our shows recently. We've talked to rental managers, we've talked to mortgage brokers, we've talked to a pet mover. All those shows are out there. You can look in the back catalogue. Today, we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We're going to talk about super and understanding it. Remember, all of our advice on this podcast is general advice. We always recommend you seek out special advice for your own situation. But today we've got a guest on, and Shaun's going to talk to us about this. Tell us a bit about yourself, Shaun.
Kia ora, everyone. My name is Shaun. I'm based in the beautiful Sunshine Coast, Queensland. So I've been a mortgage broker for about 2 years. I've been lending for about 5 years. So previous to that, I was just with banks. But the hard thing about banks is that you've only got one set of policies with only a couple of products to choose from. The beauty of a broker is that you've got thousands of different policies that you can choose from and products that are just going to align to what you need. So yeah, mortgage broking, anything from investment to refinancing, purchasing, self-managed super funds. So yeah, we do it all.
So that's a big one, self-managed super funds. What is Australian super? Like, obviously people moving from different countries, they have different names for things. What is super?
Super was set up so that when you reach the retirement age, you literally have something to fall back to be able to pay yourself, technically a wage, right? Previous to that, probably 10, 15 years ago, nothing was set up in that place. So by the time you got to 65, and if you haven't been prepared to, you haven't been saving, then you've got effectively nothing to live on. So you're just relying on the pension. Super was designed so that once you reach retirement age, you've got an income to be able to have a good life until the end. That is what super is designed for. But there are so many different ways that you can utilize your super. You can buy property in it, you can add contributions to it. Australia's got so many good options for super.
Awesome. And so you get paid your wages here if you're in a normal job. Super disappears off the top before you even see the rest of your wages, isn't it? Like, you don't even actually see this money disappearing. Do you know roughly how much it is that the average sort of person gets?
11.5%.
That's pretty cool. That's a big chunk of change on top of your wages.
It is, and it is neat, and it's so good for, I'll call it the Gen Z, the people that are just starting out and work, because they've still got 40, 50 years for those contributions to go into their super. The people that sort of had super or that started in their 30s and 40s, their super balance might not be as much as what Gen Z super will be. So they're in a great position where if they can find a really good job, their super balance by the time they hit retirement age, they're going to live a comfortable life at retirement age.
That's awesome. So obviously this is for people moving. A lot of our listeners out there generally will be moving from Europe and whatnot, but we have a lot of Kiwi listeners. New Zealand's got KiwiSave. Can they move KiwiSaver to Australia?
They sure can. And that is the beauty of the handshake between Australia and New Zealand that was come into play. So the category 444 that most people come over the Tasman with was a Tasman, I can't even speak today. It's a handshake. I'll call it a handshake. There we go. But there's so many things involved where you can come over and you don't need to apply for a visa. You get automatic permanent residency. And one of those is super. So super, you can bring over your KiwiSaver. If you're going to move over to Australia permanently, you can pretty much bring all your KiwiSaver over, and that can sit here in your Australian super. And the beauty of it is you can use some of that to purchase your first home if you're a first home buyer in Australia.
Awesome. And what about other countries? Do you know if it's possible with other countries to move their savings for retirement schemes over, or not as easy?
Not as easy, and that's due to just Australia doesn't have the handshake agreement that it has with New Zealand. So the research that I've done, and let's use UK as an example, you can't really pull out anything until the retirement age. I think it's 55 or 65 in the UK. So that would be the first time that you'd be able to bring that super across. And that's the beauty of New Zealand and Australian relationship, is that you can actually pull that across.
Awesome. So you've been working here a bit, you've saved a bit of money into your super, or you're a Kiwi and you've moved your money over. You just said we can use it potentially to buy a home. How's that work? What is it? How's it work?
Yeah, 100%. It's such a good question. Get asked this question all the time, and done quite a few applications with Kiwis that have moved over here. And the general rule of thumb is that once your Kiwi saver is over in the Australian super, there is a little bit of a process where you need to bring it into what's called the First Home Super Saver Scheme, which is the ATO, which is the IRD of Australia. And that is what allows you to use your KiwiSaver as a contribution. Now the only amount that you can pull out is 15,000. Okay, but you can make additional contributions to that First Home Super Saver Scheme, and that is effectively what allows you to build up a deposit over time. So you can pull out up to 50,000 over up to 5 years. And that is $15,000 per year that it's been in. So there's a bit of a process, but we always run through that with clients about how best to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So if they time it right and they're moving around the end of the tax year, they could sort of get a big chunk in with KiwiSaver just before the end of the tax year. Then the following year start saving some money out of their wages and then get someone like yourself to help them get it all back out and use it to put towards their mortgage.
Yeah, I get this question a few times where people go, well, can't I just save in my regular bank account and just do it that way and just do the 15,000? Well, you can, but in Australia, they've got you can do salary sacrificing, and most salary sacrificing comes with and it's pre-tax. So the amount that you're actually making as a voluntary contribution is not taxed on. So at the end of the financial year, you're actually going to be paying less tax. So that is the beauty of doing it through the First Home Super Saver Scheme, is that yes, it could be that you're just putting that money aside in savings, but if you're doing it through the First Home Super Saver Scheme, you're actually not paying tax on it.
So hold on, let me go back to that. So if I save extra money out of my wages and I don't save too much, I save the right amount into this first home scheme, I don't even pay tax. It comes out before I see the money.
Correct. So on your payslip, let's say you get paid $2,000 gross per week.
Yep.
Let's say 300 of that is tax, but 400 of that might be pre-tax, right?
Mhm.
So the actual taxable amount that you're getting taxed on is only 1,600 gross, because that 400 portion of it is not taxed.
That's awesome. That's going to build up your savings way faster.
It is, and you're going to pay less tax at the end of the financial year as well.
Well, that's a bit of a bonus. And then so they just fill out a bit of paperwork. They get approval from the Australian government with the ATO to be allowed to use it. And
Yes,
that forms part of their deposit. And then you can use that as a calculation to work out how much you can lend them plus any other deposit they've got, correct?
that's right. So the good news about, especially New Zealand citizens, is that about 2 months ago, Kiwis are now eligible for the 5% deposit scheme. So it is state related. So here in Queensland, you can purchase up to a property of 700,000 in Metro Queensland, and only need a 5% deposit. And so I've done the calculations. That is a minimum deposit of 42,000. That includes legal fees. That includes pretty much the whole purchase journey. So if you've got two applicants and they've got 15,000 each in their KiwiSaver, and we can utilize that, theoretically, all they need is 12,000 of their own savings to be able to purchase a property up to 700,000.
So if we've got a couple buying, it's 15,000 each they can use, not just 15. Oh, that's
That's
even.
correct. Yep. So 30,000 deposit, so 15 from each. So
Yep.
two Kiwis. Yeah, 12,000 would. So if you're looking at a property of, let's say, 500,000, that 15,000 each contribution from KiwiSaver, that might be enough to purchase the property without any other additional contributions.
And obviously they could maybe bring in another family member, etc. if they had more than two, like if it was more than just a husband and wife. Can you do a mortgage with, say, three people?
You can, but the 5% deposit scheme was designed for just two people. So then my conversation would then go, okay, we might need to look at lender's mortgage insurance, which is a risk fee to the bank. But yeah, even in the 5% deposit scheme, you can buy with brother and sister. You can do mum and dad. You can do, it changed last year as well. It used to be just married or de facto. But yeah, you can purchase with friends as well. under
Well,
the
that's a
scheme.
huge advantage for people if they can move their previous KiwiSaver over, have a 30,000-ish dollar head start if they've got the money. Plus, if they save a bit more, that's even better. And then if they've got any other savings, that can really kickstart them into owning a home here, can't it?
Yeah, and I've just done with one with a Kiwi client that he set up his first home super saver scheme in May of this year. He did voluntary contributions up until the end of June, which was about $1,000, so not too much. But then he did the determination in the new financial year and pulled out his $15,000 Kiwi saver. So his total contribution was 16,000. So that's why I was saying is that he did a part contribution in one financial year. He did his KiwiSaver in another financial year. That's how he was able to pull out 16,000 within only a couple of months. So there is a bit of a timing thing that you got to be careful of. But yeah, absolutely, it's such a huge advantage.
Well, that's awesome. Have you got any other tips out there for people that are going to look at moving and buying a home anytime soon?
We're big advocates for pre-approvals, and the reason is so many policies are changing these days. Policies are getting updated. Borrowing capacity is forever changing in our world. Gone are the days where you need to be in an employment for 6 months or have a probation of 6 months. Banks don't care about that anymore. And this is why I see a broker, because I've got 45 lenders on my panel. So it's always good to review options rather than just going to a bank directly, because that bank might not be giving you the best deal as such. So I'd say pre-approvals is a good one. Find your area that you want to look in. As I said, there's different price caps with the 5% deposit scheme. So, we always need to align it with someone else's, where they're looking to purchase. But pre-approvals we're huge advocates for it, and I've seen your resources. Tap into resources. Um, it's just there's so
Education is
much
definitely the key, isn't it?
there's so much misinformation out there, and this is why you see the experts, is because we sort of break it down and go, yes, you can do this, no, you can't do that, and it's all done in one conversation rather than trying to Google, where to buy, what to do, which banks will give the best interest rate. Sometimes it's not always down to the best interest rate, because you might be casual, and casual is always looked at completely different than what full-time work would be, or self-employed and things like that. So there's so many different policies that we can utilize.
Awesome. So we've done the hard bits. We've talked about all the super. We've worked out how people can use that to their advantage. Now I want you to get your crystal ball out. We've got an election coming
Ooh.
up here. We've had a few zero interest rates where they've held the rate. What's going to happen between now and the end of the year? Do you think we're going to see the rate stay the same? Are we likely to see some interest rate drops like the rest of the world? What do you think is going to happen?
The conversation at the start of the year is that we probably would have seen 2 interest rate decreases by now. Obviously, that hasn't happened, and that's due to inflation. It's due to a whole bunch of things. I was hoping for one decrease by the end of the year. I still think that's going to happen probably in November. I'm an optimistic person, so I know there's other people in the office that think otherwise. But from the things that we read, from what we hear about, interest rates will probably start to decrease over the next 12 months. They are going to go down slowly as to what they increased. So we had always 0.25 increases. We might get an increase, but it might be only 0.1. And then another 0.15. So they're going to come down slower than what they went up, which is okay. But from a borrowing capacity, even just a 0.1 decrease could add $20,000 back to your borrowing capacity. So I'm hoping for one. Don't hold me to it.
That's the famous last words for everyone. I think one will happen. Just don't hold me to it.
I thought there was going to be 2 this year. But that's, again, it changes as to what information is released. So the more information that gets released, obviously the more opinions and people change their mind, I guess.
Awesome. Oh, thanks for all your help today for our listeners. Whereabouts can someone find you if they want a bit more detailed information about maybe a mortgage or how they could use their savings from super to get a mortgage?
Yeah, so we do what's called goal setter meetings. So in that goal setter meeting, we run through what your income is, what you're entitled to, what you need as a deposit. So it's a no obligation. We don't charge a fee, any upfront fee. So the best way to contact me is to honestly just give me a call. I'm available 7 days a week. I can run through what your borrowing capacity is. So more than likely we'll put some details up. But yeah, honestly, just a quick 5-minute call that can give me a good indication of where you're buying, how much you know, what your borrowing capacity is roughly, and then we can make a time for a meeting to actually run through that in depth.
Awesome. Oh, thanks for that. And thanks for your time today. For all our guests out there, obviously, I'll get the details up on our Facebook page. They're all on our Spotify. We'll have some more shows coming up soon with some great information for you. If you want to know anything, or if there's any questions you've got budding and you want us to answer, just drop us a line either on Facebook, Instagram, on the show, and say, hey, can we get some help with finding out this? Because that's how we know who to interview for the show, so we can get the information you guys want to hear. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. We'll have another show out soon. Keep us on Spotify, Keen on Australia, and follow us on Facebook as well, Keen on Australia. Thanks, and enjoy our next show.